Hey folks, Charles 75N here, and here we are once again with the Charles Greene Motley Crue Girls, Girls, Girls guitar, and from their final tour. So this sucker is coming out really good. We've gone ahead and we sprayed our uh, first 6 coats of clear. We're going to put 3 more on it, but we do have a couple things to go ahead and address. There's a little bit of a drippage down here that we're going to go ahead and wet sand down, and then we're going to just kind of wet sand the whole thing and get it ready for its final 3 coats. So let's go ahead and work with that. So I'm going to work in this area right here where I've got some really good drippage, and so we're just going to take it down a bit at a time and get that so it's smooth and we can go ahead and re-clear it. And this does happen from time to time. Normally, I don't spray really, really heavy coats of clear, but I was trying to go ahead and fix a problem that I had in the finish, and so we were able to do that. It just meant we got some drips, and just wet sand those suckers out, and we're gonna have it all made. And so what I'm going to really try to do is just really focus on the area in which I do have the drip, rather than going after the whole thing here, right here. And so you can see how we take a look at that. And and as I wet sand on it, what will happen is you'll begin to see you can now it becomes a whole lot more clear because we've got it dull. So we've got the drip here and some more there, and so we were trying to get into a window where we had just enough temperature to go ahead and spray the clear, and it worked out pretty well. I'm really happy with the finish so far, except for these couple places where we've got the drips. And like I said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to address that a little bit here at a time. And before too long, it'll be ready for its final 3 coats of clear. And then we can buff it and get it off to our buddy Charles Greene. All right, so while this is, going to be just really fascinating for you as I go over all this, why don't we go ahead, we'll just hit pause on here, and I'll keep working on this for a while, and I'll show you what it looks like before we send it back into its final 3 coats of clear. So now you can really see that drip really coming out. And it's not as big of a drip as it really looks like. It's just now that I'm flattening it out, it really comes out. So a lot more three-dimensional looking than it really is. Hey folks, so we've got our Charles Greene guitar, the last 3 coats of clear on it. And so here we are, we're looking at it. I'm very, very happy with it. We've got a couple things to go ahead and taken care of. A little bit of orange peel here and there. We've already wet sanded some things that were down on the side here, so this is why this is all kind of milky like that, but we'll buff that up and it'll come out real nice. Again, we've got a little bit of a drip down here that we're going to go ahead and we're going to take care of first. And so we're going to start working on that here. And but I'm very happy with the way that this is coming out. And so this should be the last of it. So really just wet sanding and then buffing it all out. And we should be able to box this up and send this out to Mr. Charles Baretta himself. And I know he's been anxious to get it, and I've been updating him with pictures as we've gone along, and so he is just really kind of psyched, and so I'm glad that he's enjoying it so far. And so just want to go ahead and start working on the rough out of this. And so what I'm trying to do is first I'm just concentrating on this little drip right here and now that is showing up quite a bit. And it's not as big as it looks. It's just now that we're wet sanding it, it shows up a whole bunch more. And I got a little bit carried away with myself again as I was spraying, so sometimes it happens. So just want to go ahead and keep working on this, and it will start to disappear. A little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. Right now I'm just working with a 1200 grit. And as soon as I get done with the drip, I'm going to start upping my drips. So so I decrease the amount of the fine scratches that I'm putting into it. So really everything else there's a little bit on the back. Oh, let's go ahead and let's look at that back while we're looking at it. But you can see already that's a lot. We're a lot better than it was. And so we'll just keep working on it until we get that perfectly smooth and no sense if it's there. On the back, it is pretty nice. There is a little bit of pitting up here that I want to go ahead and take care of. But other than that, I am pretty well pleased with it. And so I'm going to keep working on this. And me wet sanding is not going to be very entertaining for you. So we're just going to have to go ahead and Bob Vila the rest of it for you. And we'll bring you back when we've got it all wet sanded out. And then we'll start buffing on it and you'll see how it comes to life. All right. Let's come back to that a little bit later. All right, folks, so here we are with the Charles Greene guitar. We've got it all wet sanded down, and now it is ready to be buffed out. And if you take a good look, you can see that it does have a shine on it already, kind of a little bit of a sheen, but nowhere near where it's going to be when we're done with it. And if I flip it over here, you can see what it looks like on the back as well. And so I'm really, really happy with this so far. But here's the thing. Once we start buffing this out, and so once we start putting the shine on it, we'll be able to notice all the little imperfections in the finish. And so once we go ahead and buff it a couple times, that may mean that we need to go back in and do some wet sanding. So I'm hoping that I got pretty much everything, but I'm afraid that right down here on the arm carve here, on the drop off for the arm, that it may need a little bit there. But we'll go ahead and we'll see. And But so far when it's wet, it looks really good. So it looks like we're going to have a good finish. So let me go ahead and get out all the buffing supplies, and I'll be back with you in a second. All right, folks. So we've got our McGuire's Pro Speed compound here. And we've got our handy-dandy buffing pad on our roughest grit there for it. And we have our trusty Bauer drill here. So we're going to go ahead and get a little bit of compound on this pad. And by a little, I mean a lot, of course. And now we're just going to go ahead and start placing it a little bit around the guitar to kind of spread some out. Make sure we have plenty of coverage everywhere and not just a bunch of compound in one space. Okay, now we'll leave some of that on the pad there. Let's get this bowl for the water from wet sanding out of the way. Alright, and so for your earphone users, we're about ready to go ahead and start with the drill. Now some of this I'll do with the drill, some of it I'll do by hand. All the wet sanding, the final wet sanding anyway, was done by hand. But this first buffing will give us a rough idea of how good the top is going to look. But we're going to need to buff and buff and buff and buff. And then we're going to need to buff some more in order to get it to be that professional finish that we want it to be. And I really should always remember to take the mouth off, because every time I buff like this on a data, the vibrations shake it right off. So you always end up picking up the mouth and the mouth cover and sucking the batteries back into it. So it's just a lot of fun. But I do it every time. I know it's going to happen, but I do it every time because I'm smart like that, right? So the fella just doesn't seem to understand. And you can see as we go through here, you know, it's looking pretty good. You can see the shine underneath all the haze of the compound. So what that haze is also covering up some of the small defects that may be in it. So while it's encouraging, I know enough that we're maybe not home free anyway. But either way, we're going to do a lot of buffing on this. Oh, my hands hurt. They hurt. All right, so I think that's enough to give us our rough idea of where we are. Let me grab a clean rag from our bag. Now let's just kind of polish the rest of it off and kind of see where we are on this finish and how close we are and how much work that we're going to have yet to do, because I'm going to tell you, we're going to deliver one fine instrument to Mr. Charles Greene for sure. And I know he's been waiting for it for a while, but we want it to be spectacular so it exceeds all his expectations when he gets it. And so hopefully that is exactly what we're doing here. All right, so let's look at it. We've got quite the shine coming up, and that's just after a few minutes of buffing. Like I said, I was worried about this down here in this corner, and let me show you a little bit. So we may have to, it's not going to come right out, okay. So under a high buff, I could see a difference in some coloration in it. And so it's going to be knocked down a couple of more layers. But the good news is here, it looks like on our top, as we really look at things, most of what we're looking for in our finish is going to be, is actually in really, really good shape. As a matter of fact, we can just keep buffing on it and see where it goes. And we may continue to do that even over here. I'm trying to have to decide whether I want to go ahead back and tackle that or not. Okay, and the other thing too is this is t-shirt fabric. And, sorry, got the light right in your face. But the other thing to remember too is this is t-shirt fabric. And so it is pulled really tight and it's really thin. And part of the beauty of that is you can see through the fabric a little bit and see the color of the wood underneath it. And so while when it's light isn't directly shining on it, you're going to get that black finish. But when you put the light right on it, you can see the grain. And so, or at least the color of the wood anyway. And so I think we're in really good shape. But what I am going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to wet sand this area out. And because I don't think that is just going to simply buff out and make it even. And so that gives me that idea. Now, if you touch it, it is perfectly even, perfectly smooth. But there is a buildup of something there that I need to go ahead and get taken away. Charles 75 in here, and here we are. We have the Charles Greene Motley Crue Mick Mars tribute guitar all ready to done. It is completely buffed out, ready to go. The only thing we need to do now is to cut out the cavities, and we can put this in the box and ship it off to him. And so really looking forward to that. So here is our front, and let me turn it over and turn it back over this way. And here is our back. And if you wanted to see in between the horns, and of course on the back and so we are ready to get going and make this complete. And so I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Charles Greene Motley Crue Krammer Baretta McMarsh tribute. And if you did, give a fella up. As always, enjoy your guitar journey, and thank you for being part of mine. Fucking flying over here, doing. Plane flying overhead. Plane flying overhead. Really? Seriously?